Today on the Eurostep,
Fultz returned. Was it the right call?
LeMarcus and LaBron running the show,
IT to Boston. Yaw or no?
and we discuss St. Gerald's All-Ireland hopes. Hi, I'm Oisin Brown and this is the Eurostep on CRC. This week I'm joined by Cillian Loftus
Yaw.
and Alex. Oh wait, no, Alex has gone skiing. He left us. I mean, how could he do that, Cillian?
Well, you see, we have to add a bit of diversity. You see, we had just me and Alex for a few episodes. Now it's just me and you. And I'll be going to Spain later in the year. Oh,
But I'm going as well.
Yeah, I forgot that actually.
Yeah,
Just Alex.
just Alex.
You'll have to do something on your own sometime. But anyway.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. I can't really talk so good. Right, so we'll get down into it. Markelle Fultz returned last night for the Philadelphia 76ers. If you don't remember who Markelle Fultz is, he was the number one pick at the 2017 draft. And basically he injured his shoulder early on in the season. Supposedly. And it's just been a bit of a disaster since. But he's back, and Cillian, let's talk about how he got on last night.
It's crazy. He forgot how to play basketball, but he came back and he was brilliant last night. In just 14 minutes of action, he had 10 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds, which are amazing stats. He did shoot 5 for 13 from the field, which is a bit iffy, but the rust is a factor that you have to consider with that. Just in general, he played really well. His points were really good baskets. 2 of them were open layups. One of them was a Dwayne Wade kind of, Cillian Loftus kind of layup. He hung in the air, pulled it back, and finished with the contact. Then he had 2 kind of pull-up, step-back jumpers in the clutch, which is beautiful to see.
I can hear our coach, Miss Loftus, shouting in the background for not taking a simple one. Yeah, so I suppose that's a good analysis of his performance. Do you think that, providing he doesn't get injured again, what kind of impact do you think he can have on the Philadelphia 76ers for the rest of the season?
For the rest of the season, I see him kind of a bench role, kind of scoring a bit off the bench. I don't think, especially with how well Ben Simmons is playing at the point guard position and JJ Redick at shooting guard, he's not going to be inserted in the starting lineup, especially when the playoffs come around. He'll be a scoring spark off the bench. He could do a bit of passing. We saw it last night with 8 assists. That's it. He'll provide scoring off the bench and give a bit of clutch, maybe. We saw it last night. He had 2 clutch jumpers, seeing as he forgot how to shoot. It's a pretty good sign for what's to come for Markelle Fultz.
Do you think the Philadelphia 76ers made the right call by bringing him back?
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. There's 2 sides to the argument. They're both as valid as each other. Obviously, him coming back is he'd get experience, he'd get confidence with the NBA game, hopefully. But, yeah, he'd get, like I said, he'd get more experience, he might. But if he comes back and he doesn't do well, his self-esteem would be almost destroyed. And that's the kind of scary thing of him coming back. If it doesn't go well, that he might kind of ruin his mental state and maybe his career altogether, which is drastic but tough to say. On the flip side, if he wasn't going to come back, he would have more time to just work on his game, gain confidence in his jump shot, which is the main thing he's lacking right now. The athleticism there, the injury is gone, we can tell. He just needs confidence in his jump shot, and if he wasn't to come back, he'd be able to work on that jump shot, work on his game, and come back even better for next season. But again, the other side of the argument, the playoff experience is extremely valuable for a young player like Markelle Fultz and the rest of the Sixers team.
To be honest, I think that what they are doing is exactly that. They want him to get playoff experience. This is their first playoffs in probably,
I think 2012.
I mean that's quite a long time ago for such I suppose fairly strong historic franchise. They were the team of the 80s, alongside Boston and I suppose LA, but they were up there. And with the process, you can argue not whether or not it worked, and valid arguments both sides.
There's no argument whether or not it worked. Look at them now.
Anyway, look, they're in the playoffs. They clinched that in the last game or the game before.
Not too sure.
And they might even get a home draw in the first round
It's looking likely.
They're themselves and the Indiana Pacers are neck and neck. And, don't be surprised, especially now with Markelle Fultz coming off the bench, if he keeps up that sort of performance, 10 points in 14 minutes, as well as just a very good all-round.
8 assists.
8 assists.
Crazy.
If you can do that, if you can be that efficient all the time off the bench, I mean, I know we'll probably want to see Markelle Fultz start, but that's not going to happen yet.
Not this season.
Not this season. I think it looks very good for Philadelphia. Look, I know we're only judging him off one game, but having that player off the bench, most teams don't have that. And, regardless of whether or not they're home or away, they're almost definitely going to be playing Indiana in the first round.
It's looking like. They're not going to catch Cleveland, and I think Washington's the 6th seed. They're not going to catch Indiana or Philly.
And don't be surprised if they get past that as well. I mean, the Pacers, they're not a bad team, but I think anyway the Philadelphia 76ers would beat them, definitely if they had the home advantage.
I would, yeah.
Is it too much to ask that, they could get to the conference finals this year? Because second round, they'll play Toronto, Milwaukee, or Miami. Probably Toronto.
It's not outrageous, which is weird to say, because they haven't made the playoffs in 6 years, I believe. And it's crazy to think that it's not an outrageous claim that they might make the conference finals. I know a lot of Raptors fans, if there's any listening, they'll be fuming that that kind of claim is made, but the Raptors are still to prove themselves in the playoffs, and the Sixers this year have proven that they can play against the better teams in the East, and the Raptors specifically. I don't think it's outrageous. I think they could make the conference finals, which would be an incredible experience for Embiid, Simmons, Fultz, all the young teams, Sarge, Covington, all of them.
Looking beyond this season, obviously we've seen the, complete the process, LeBron come to Philly. If LeBron comes into that team once you have LeBron, you're kind of a championship contender anyway. But if this team can perform, if you can get Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, and
Dario Saric
probably at the 5 as or 4. Sorry, you have Embiid at 5. If you can manage to put them all in together as your starting 5, that's quite a team.
They're making the finals.
And that team could put it up to the Warriors or the Rockets, I think.
And with another off-season of work in for Fultz, Simmons, Embiid, Simmons could get his jump shot a bit further, Fultz gets some more confidence, Embiid just becomes more of a monster than he is now. That team could definitely give the Warriors, Rockets, even maybe Celtics, if they come up and enter next year, give them a massive run for their money.
It's very exciting if you're a Philly fan now. Speaking of LeBron James, he was Player of the Week. He's been the player of the league probably after the All-Star break. He's been absolutely unstoppable. And out west, LaMarcus Aldridge was Player of the Week out there. He's been shooting lights out at the moment. In the last 5 games, he's averaged just nearly 36 points per game off 60% field goal, 9.4 rebounds per game. Compare that to his season averages of 23.2 points per game off 51%, 8.4 rebounds per game. You've everything LeBron there as well as Marcus Aldridge. So we'll start with LeBron since we're just talking about him. Unstoppable.
Yeah, with LeBron, I was looking how many games back should I go for the stats, and I realised for the full month of March, he's averaged 31.5 points per game, 9.7 assists and 9.8 rebounds, with 4 triple-doubles in 13 games. Then even for the month of February, he averaged a 27-point triple-double, which is crazy. Some notable games he's had recently: he had 25 points, 15 assists and 10 rebounds against Denver, 39 points, 10 assists and 8 rebounds again against Denver, 40 points, 10 assists and 12 rebounds against Milwaukee, and a monster 35 points, 17 assists, 7 rebound outing against Toronto. With LeBron James, I think one thing I thought of is he kind of maybe warming up for the playoffs. We know LeBron is another animal when it comes to the playoffs, and maybe he's shaking off a bit of the bit of the regular season rust, so he's ready come playoff time.
Yeah, obviously, I suppose he does have Kevin Love beside him, but beyond that, he doesn't have that Kyrie Irving anymore. And maybe that means he either has to pick up even more responsibility, or he can let the players around him grow into that role.
He's a young team around him.
He has a young team around him, but for this season, I feel like LeBron probably has to take a lot of weight onto his shoulders. Kevin Love, bringing him back into the team, that's brilliant now because he's been injured for a while now. And the fact that he's back in, it helps Cleveland massively. It more or less guarantees them the third seed. They probably won't catch up to Boston. I think they're 6 games behind Boston. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Even with all the injuries in Boston. But at the end of the day, this is LeBron James. This is going to be the playoffs. LeBron James in the playoffs is, you could talk about LeBron, Jordan, who's the greatest of all time. But playoff LeBron, no question, he takes over Jordan. But it's just a matter of if the other players around him can, maybe help him out a bit. And do you see that happening?
Not really. They have a very young team. The guys like Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, they haven't never played a playoff series. Rodney Hood definitely has. My bad. Jordan Clarkson's never played a playoff series. Larry Nance Jr. never has. So it'll be a new experience for them. LeBron will have to kind of ease them into that and take the individual load, which he's really been doing all season. This is definitely the best individual year he's had since his return to Cleveland. I think something I was thinking of is kind of crazy. This is kind of the first time he's really been in MVP contention since he came back to Cleveland. 2015 was all about Harden, Curry. 2016, we don't talk about that. Curry destroyed the NBA. 2017 was the Harden Westbrook year. This year is he's actually there in MVP contention compared to last few years, which really shows how much better he's been this year than years past in Cleveland.
Do you think a lot of that has to do with Kyrie Irving not being in the team?
Yeah, he has to. Kyrie took a lot of the scoring load off LeBron, just a lot of pressure off him in general. And now Kyrie went down, obviously got Isaiah Thomas back, but we know how that turned out. So LeBron, he basically lost an all-star. He had to pick up this load, along with other guys like Kevin Love. They had to pick up the load and improve so that the team could stay where they are at the top of the Eastern Conference rather than slip down a little bit.
Okay, so the other player of the week, the one out west, LaMarcus Aldridge, he has been shooting lights out at the moment, and he's San Antonio, they're kind of struggling. We were saying, won't they make the playoffs? I think they've a 2-game gap now between themselves and Denver in 9th. Denver 9th, yeah.
I've been keeping up with the standings, not gonna lie.
I've been doing my best, but yourself out west, every day it's different. We could see, Clippers are 10th. They can still make the playoffs. They're only 2 games back.
Definitely, yeah. It's crazy out west, but LeMarcus Aldridge, he's been incredible, like you said, the last 5 games, shooting the lights out. He's had some amazing games as well. 30-17 against Golden State, 39-10 against Minnesota, 33-12 against Golden State, 34-7 against Milwaukee, and 45 points, 9 rebounds and 3 blocks against Utah. That's not necessarily for that 5-game stretch, just in general. He's been incredible as of late, but we can't pretend like he hasn't been amazing all season. He made the All-Star game this year, having missed out last year as his kind of role diminished. Is that a word?
Yeah, that's
diminished
that's
in San Antonio. It's been a bit of a revival season for LaMarcus Aldridge. In the absence of Kawhi, he's kind of turned back the clock to his Portland days when he was undisputed one of the probably top 5, if not top 3 best power forwards in the NBA. He's averaging 23 points, 8.5 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, his best number since his last year in Portland in 2015. I think one of the best things this year as well is, at the start of this year, he got a big extension in San Antonio, $72 million over 3 years. And a lot of people questioned that contract, with LaMarcus kind of getting on in age. He's 32, I believe. and he showed that he was kind of declining a little bit in San Antonio. But he's definitely proven his worth to that contract, and he's back up there with the big names for the title of best power forward in the NBA.
And rightly so. I feel like LaMarcus Aldridge is probably one of the more slept-on players in the league. Obviously, the players who are playing haven't been getting too much attention in San Antonio because all we've talked about is Kawhi Leonard not being there.
Yeah.
So, LaMarcus Aldridge, I believe it was himself and Al Horford who were the last two picks for the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think so.
In their playground style pick.
Well, we'll assume so.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to assume so.
And when we see them kind of numbers, you think, oh my God, how was he not higher up when you consider Jimmy Butler didn't even play?
It's a smaller market, San Antonio, compared to, I don't know, New York got an All-Star, Boston, those kind of markets. People don't give as much attention to San Antonio, even though they are one of the best teams in the NBA, given that their ranking in the standings might not show it. But it's just a smaller market of San Antonio. Like you said, even the guys around LaMarcus Aldridge haven't been getting the recognition they deserve this season because all the attention's been on Kawhi Leonard. The likes of Dejounte Murray has been brilliant in his sophomore year. He's really stepped up and kind of a little bit of leading that team, as crazy it is to say. All the other guys in that team, they've really stepped up in the absence of Kawhi. It's not just LaMarcus, but he does deserve a lot of the credit.
Yeah, like he's just... I mean, if he can keep that up, those are serious numbers. And, don't be surprised if, first round, he's, the MVP of, that matchup, whoever San Antonio are against. That's not to say they'll coast through the playoffs. They're not gonna this year. Not when you've Houston and Golden State in your conference. Regardless of whether or not they had Kawhi, they were,
He did some damage against Golden State last year, though, I believe. I'm pretty sure. He had some 30-point games in the series, I'm pretty sure.
Well, someone had to pull up the socks when Kawhi got injured.
Yeah, true.
Moving on. Very sad news yesterday. The passing of Zeke Upshaw of the Grand Rapids Drive. They're the Detroit Pistons G League affiliate. Saturday night, towards the end of their game, Zeke Upshaw, he collapsed on the court. He was rushed to hospital, and unfortunately he passed away yesterday of what we believe was cardiac arrest. So very sad news coming from there. Anything you'd like to add, Killian?
Not necessarily, just more kind of pay respects to him. He was only 26 years old, which is very sad.
Yeah,
26 years young, I should say. But
it's horrible, really. Like, we haven't really witnessed much of this before in basketball. I know his name eludes me, but there was a player, the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know the name.
And, he got some bad medical advice, and unfortunately his heart gave up on him. But, yeah, there's not really too much we can say except, we express our condolences to the Upshaw family. Next, Isaiah Thomas, he had a Twitter Q&A last week. I don't know if that's always a good idea. You're always going to grab some headlines unless you're super boring. Isaiah Thomas was asked if he would ever return to Boston. Obviously, they didn't part ways in the nicest manner. But he said anything can happen. And to be honest, I don't think he could have answered that question much better, because I don't think he ever expected to be leaving Boston in the first place. And we saw anything can happen. And especially when you've Danny Ainge as the GM. But Killian, he's been averaging a point per game more for the Lakers than he was for the Cavs. Slightly better shooting, a little bit better passing. He's still miles off his form last season. Is there any chance he'll go back to Boston this off-season?
I don't really see it happening. I think Isaiah Thomas wants to go back to Boston more than Boston wants Isaiah Thomas to come back, personally. Because we have Kyrie Irving now. We don't need a scoring guard. he'd just be taking minutes from younger guys, and there's no need for that. The one thing is, Boston, they don't have the best salary cap, but I'm thinking that won't be a massive issue if they were to go after Isaiah Thomas. He was talking last season about getting paid by Boston when his free agency came along, but he hasn't been great this year, and he's had the injury concerns with his hip that I think has lowered his free agency stock a lot. I'd be surprised if he gets over 15 million. I'd say to be getting about 12, that kind of range, which is not much more than he was getting in the first place. But if he was to go to a place like Boston, he obviously wouldn't start. Kyrie Irving starts over him every day of the week, but he'd definitely be one of, if not probably, the best six man in the NBA. He'd provide damn near 20 points per game, I'd say, off the bench, which is outrageous. But like I said, coming back to Boston, as a Boston fan, I'd rather give the minutes to Rozier than Isaiah Thomas. He's a defensive liability, while Rozier is incredible on defense. And Rozier has proven that he's developed a lot this season, and he's going to get even better. You'd rather play him and have him develop into probably the best backup point guard in the NBA than just give minutes to a 5'9" defensive liability coming off your bench.
Look, it's hard to vouch for Isaiah Thomas because he was so good last season, and now it's kind of sad. You know, if this is all because of his injury, it's just, you know, that's just terrible. But I suppose the big difference I see for his stats, it isn't the points per game. He is playing less minutes. You know, he has Lonzo Ball there in Los Angeles, so obviously they're going to have to share. Whereas, you know, last season he was the man at, you know, Boston. So the big difference I see is his field goal percentage. He was shooting 46% last season, which is it's a good number. It's not brilliant.
It's pretty good for the main option on offense.
Yeah. But this season he shot 36% for the Cavs and 38% for the Lakers. Not
good on either team.
No, especially in this modern NBA.
Yeah.
Where the shooting is so important, and it's not as if he has it's not as if he's a two-way player. He can't defend. It's nothing, you know, personal. It's just, you know, when you're 5'9", trying to defend people who are the better part of a foot taller than you, it's difficult. I've tried doing it before. It doesn't work. Yeah. Look, if not Boston, where is he going next season?
Any team that could use a kind of maybe second, third option on offense. I don't see him leading another offense, not after the injury and kind of showing he's put up this year. He won't get the opportunity to lead an offense. Any team that can use a second, third option, or even, like I said, probably the best six man in the NBA, any team could take a guy like Isaiah Thomas, really.
Just any particular team you think he's more likely to go to?
Return to Sacramento, maybe.
That's the one he's been linked with the most, in fairness. That's the one that's always being thrown out there. And, you know, I suppose it'd be a little bit, you know, romantic for the return, but it's not really the place for a player like... I don't think Isaiah Thomas would want to go to Sacramento. It's not really a good situation there at the moment.
No, it's a young team. They're trying to develop the young players, get in more players through the draft. Just Isaiah Thomas doesn't really fit there unless he was to mentor a guy like De'Aaron Fox. He'd provide a good experience.
Yeah, if he was shooting, like, you know, the same amount of points per game, but just on a better percentage, I could see him going to somewhere like Miami, where they have a reliance on Goran Dragic at the point guard.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good matchup if he can raise his shooting. Like, he doesn't have to play brilliant basketball, but in a team that, you know, really focuses on the attacking side, they don't have to defend amazingly well. They just try to outscore the other team. And I think if Isaiah Thomas can at least, you know, just be a more efficient shooter, that's the kind of team where he'll be most suited to, you know, come next season.
Yeah, the one thing with how you said how he's been shooting this year, there's only one thing in the NBA worse than a volume scorer, and that's a shooter who can't shoot. So a volume scorer, you don't. It's a player who needs a lot of shots to put up points. You don't want that kind of player on your team.
No, not in this modern
It's just
NBA.
not worth it.
St. Giles College, first year team were playing in the regionals on Friday. That's why we weren't on Saturday. Apologies for that, by the way. They did pretty well, actually.
Amazing.
I didn't get to go because of a certain teacher who will not be named doing... I'm not even going to bother. Killian, tell us how'd it go?
It was absolutely an amazing show. They played the semi-final. Can't remember the team. I think Ballyshannon, I think it was. They played in the semi-final. Let's just say after the first quarter, the score was 11-0, so it was game over pretty quickly. They just had to play out the rest of the game, really. You can't give up that quick. The second game, which was the final of Connacht, we'll call it, they absolutely destroyed the team. Myself and Alex were trying to get the score off the scorekeepers in around the third quarter, fourth quarter kind of time, and they wouldn't tell us because it was so bad. In the end, I think it was 50-something to about 17. It was an amazing show, and that was the only team they'd lost to all season, and they absolutely destroyed them in the final, what you'd call maybe state final in America. They absolutely destroyed the team they went up against. Next up, All-Ireland playoffs. Hope it's far away so we get to stay overnight.
Yeah, looking towards the All-Ireland playoffs, it'll be the quarterfinals, I suppose. We saw with the under-16s, they dominated Northwest, but when it came to the playoffs, maybe it wasn't a good draw that they got facing a Galway team and a Dublin team. But, with the first years, is there a fear that could happen again?
I'm not too sure. It's hard to tell. Northwest isn't the strongest region for basketball. It's alright, but it's not incredible. But the first year team is very good. They have everything you need in a team. They have tall rebounders. They have shorter, quick guards who good at defending. And then they have the kind of, call them star players who get you baskets when you need them. They have everything you need for a good, working, flowing team. And we'll have to see the competition first before we can say whether or not they'll struggle come playoff time or flourish and maybe make an All-Ireland run and win the All-Ireland, hopefully.
I think because they're in first year, it probably helps them in a way, because obviously for us, we knew the step up because we were playing C grade last year and playing B grade this year, but they know no different. They didn't play against Dava College or Boyle or Coleman's or teams like these who don't have brilliant basketball teams. But when you get up to B, there's a bit of a higher standard. And, I think we struggled with that a little bit, training maybe that little bit harder, pushing ourselves a little bit more in, come game time. But the first years they haven't experienced C, they're going straight into B. What's to stop St. Giles from playing A grade next year?
I don't really want to, to be quite honest, because I don't want to play 4 games and then have it be out. I want to get some time off school. But is that how it works? I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a clue how you push up.
Basically, once you win one All-Ireland, or there's a point system.
But does first years count? Because Alex said something like it might just base off the under-19 teams, because they made the All-Ireland final last year in the C grade, so then they moved up. But then again, the second year team won the All-Ireland.
No, so. Basically, there are 2 ways you can go up the grade. One is by one of your teams winning an All-Ireland.
Yeah.
And second is you can apply via a point system, basically, which it sums up all your 4 teams. And if
they're good enough,
if you have, I think it's like the biggest points total in your grade, then you go up. So I'd say we probably had both options there, because St. Giles did win C grade School of the Year from Basketball Ireland last year.
I didn't know that. I don't listen that day, man.
And I don't think we'd be too far off it this year. I mean, look, the second years, they didn't do so good. But the other teams, we got to a regional semi.
16s were good.
16s got to the All-Ireland playoffs. The first years from the All-Ireland playoffs. We're not doing too bad.
Not doing too bad. I think the main hope is that the first years win the All-Ireland, we move up to A grade. That would be the main kind of way. And I think that would just show how valuable we are as the TYs. Because, we came into the school, we were the C grade. And then if just in 4 years in the school, we're already up to the A grade, I'm just saying, we're the reason why.
It's all us, obviously.
Even though we never got past All-Ireland semis, but sure.
There couple of unfortunate events in first and third year in the playoffs with regards to injuries. First year, I think full well, Killian, you were the one who got injured. Then in third year, we had a couple of injuries, before we got to the playoffs, and we only really had 6 or 7 players that the coach would play. And, well, unfortunately, it didn't go so well. But on that sad note, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to be back on Saturday, hopefully. Check us out on social media. We are Team Eurostep on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously, like and subscribe to us on YouTube if you like our content, and also if you enjoy our content, check us out on Patreon. Please support us if you enjoy the content as little as it. We're not really pushing it too much. As little as €1 a month helps us immensely. I know we say that and it sounds pure cheese, but we mean it. Honest to God. So until next time, that's a goodbye from Killian.
Yeah.
Goodbye from
not Alex.
Snowy Ski and Alex, and a goodbye from myself, Oisin Brown. Until next time, keep grinding.